Here we have the complete build for the Master Grade ESX. I just want to go over a little bit, as this is only a pre-built phase, as for we have another couple of things coming up for this model kit on the next project for the next video. I just want to go over my likes and, what I didn't really like about the kit, and also this is going to be kind of short for the most part, just to give an oversight of my point of view, what I thought about it and building it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, the sheer size of this thing. If you were following me on Instagram, you will have noticed that I had like a couple of pictures in comparison with the Master Grade Kyrios. And out of the Master Grades that I've built, Kyrios actually sits pretty tall for the most part. Putting him side by side with this guy is, abysmal compared to how this guy sits. He's huge. He's massive. It's also the one factor that's kind of a disadvantage when doing this kind of thing, because once he's fully built as he is, it's not going to stand up well on his own. Frame-wise, he'll be fine, but once everything starts getting on his arms and his back, thrusters, it's just become straight up onto the base itself, and nothing more and nothing less. He is a stoic, one type of pose type of guy. Just leave it alone, and it is what it is. If you do want him to stand, I would say that building the S version of the kit would probably be a little bit more viable than compared to this one. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much about it of what you're going to get from him, just being the sheer size and his structure and everything. To complement the other factors is the frame itself is very sturdy, very well built, very well. I also like the fact that the screws play key role parts into it, and also there are disadvantages that I've had from using the screws, because as of right now, this shoulder arm right here, he's a little loosey-goosey. Now, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't over tighten it and try to crack anything when putting this guy together, since it's just a pre-built, and I'm hoping that will get solved once we get it done to the final build and all that jazz. But other than that, the final frame is quite well, and overall his structure does stand out. If I could compare him to like a Sazabi, I would if I had one built yet. That he's still in the works in the backlog. The other thing that I will note is the stand itself is great. It's a pretty good stand. The only problem that I would say that I have with it, it leaves up to the imagination of like other poses that this guy could really stand in. But for the most part, if you were to build this in the G Cruiser form, then that would be really rock solid to have this stand, because then the pose of him launching into the air, it gives that look of like this base is meant for that. Him in mobile suit form, just standing there and just having like a rod jammed up his crotch, doesn't really leave great to imagination. His legs can only be articulated so much, and form factor is always an issue. This guy is, just a heavy Goliath of a dog, and he's not about to give up what he is and to show what he is. Basically, you see what you get, be in awe of his sheer size. So that's, I would say overall, aesthetics and everything, it's a really great model kit to build. Yeah. But we got to get into the negatives. One of the negatives is definitely the fact is you cannot really build this kit without the stand. And I say that because I tried to, and if you saw the last video, we did the whole the whole shenanigans of posing him in the hangar base, getting built up, and that's actually where it came into a problem when it comes to the EXS model itself, because the front of the waist is actually attached also to the base part where he sits upon, and the problem with that is he has to have been positioned there and then put the waist on, because if not, it's going to have an issue where it looks ragged and it doesn't look like it's connecting. And from how it is and the angle it is, no matter how you seat it, it's going to try to pop off and fly off if you really manhandle it too much. So, but you shouldn't have that problem when you straight build it yourself. That was just me, because I wanted to be a little entertaining in my last video, but it is what it is. Ultimately though, build it on the stand and be good with it and how it is. The second thing that I would say that I dislike about this kit is definitely the black wires that come with this kit. Now, the wires are traditionally supposed to be used to make like this part of the antenna come up for readings, and the ones on the knees, I can't really see it because I'm not trying to move this guy too much, to pop out, and just like if you ever played the video game and you've seen how it goes out, it ricochets shots to enemies and stuff like that. Yeah, not really good. The wires are very thin. It comes with other parts that make it bend around like a corner, like making an angle shot or whatever you want to call it. But for the most part, I think it's just there for looks. It doesn't really do anything structure-wise or much at all. The wires are just too thin to really hold the weight because it was just jiggling around, and it just gives like an aesthetic look of like, it's not worth it. I would say if Bandai had more like the acrylic rods that came with the Master Grade Strike Freedom full burst mode, that actually would have been a lot better because those were strong and sturdy, and once you get them into a certain angle, they stay like that, because the next time you try to bend it another way, it's just going to snap. So that would have been a better idea to me for it to be one and done with overall that. But like I said, this guy, he's heavy. So he has to have a lot of attachments, a lot of things keeping him attached and put together. The screws are also a factor. A lot of screws that went into this. If you have any screws left over, if you're having any screws left over, maybe you got lucky and got some extra ones, but this guy uses all of his screws. Everything on this guy is mostly on his back, and the frame for holding that back up is not well at all. So you can forget about, anything of real posability to lean back, like he's doing some kind of upward gunshot or for that most part, it's pretty much this straightforward, like he's coming at you and this is what you get. There's not a lot of that. The next thing I would say I do hate is definitely how you have to articulate the gun. Even reading that manual, it was still quite an issue trying to figure out how to get it to really sit on there. But, after a little playing with it and getting it to set onto the front of the waist and getting that guy, perfectly set, it was just a big issue, and it felt like there was something wrong with me at that point. The second thing I would say I kind of don't like about this kit is the actual weapon itself. Now, it's simple, straightforward. It's like snaps two things together and then two things on the inside, and then you got your scopes and the barreling and everything. But it just feels kind of plain. It's left up to the imagination for you to do a little bit more and put into it. That would be also my other gripe. The third one I would say is definitely these fuselage, as I believe that's what these are the fuselage for carrying fuel, even though it's kind of weird to say that since they're really hollow. I am not a fan of these things. They do not hold well, and as you can see, this is actually falling off, and that's why I don't want to touch it until we get to its final part, and it's really sad to see. There's nothing much you can do with it. But yeah, very finicky. It just doesn't really want to hold well, and it's kind of sad because Bandai should have saw that and thought of something with a little bit more of lock-in type of feature to where it sits in there, because this thing has so many male ends that go in with like a key, like a key would go in and then lock into place with some of these things, and you can articulate it around. Like that doesn't really have it. It should have been something that was a part of that way this type of droopiness and easily disconnect from them they can be. So yeah, definitely a very finicky boy on that front. Overall though, everything else holds up pretty well. The shoulders themselves, they're holding a lot of weight. You got to make sure you get everything snapped together. Many of these little parts up here on these wings, extra wing sets, when it's transformed, it can have a tendency to fall apart, and you got to be prepared to make sure that it doesn't. But it's something that you got to tackle when you come at it head on. And while we're up here, top of the discussion, you see these V fins? These V fins, right here, these guys? I hate them. I really do hate them. You can't really see why I would hate it, but if you were to see the manual and then you see the part and how you have to finagle these two parts separately and then this one part together and then push the front in at the same time to hopefully it doesn't go, the two on the sides would pop out. It's really a pain. And as we all know, V-fins on any Gundam are very thin and finicky. And you just got to be careful. And hopefully, nothing really pops off and flies off and you can't do anything about it because there are no extras. There are no extras. So, to summarize it up, would I get this kit? Or would I recommend getting this kit? If you have the space, because this guy is going to take up some real estate on your shelf or your DTOF, because I know a lot of people got those IKEA things. Shout outs to y'all to actually getting those things. Atlanta is a pain to get one from, considering the ridiculous amount of shipping cost, and then they trying to build it for me coming to my town. I don't need your help building a cabinet. I know how to build cabinets. I build damn Gundams, okay? I got this. But that's another story for another day. Make sure you have space for this guy. Because he's going to take up a lot for himself. Like, he needs his own space. That's the type of guy he is. He needs his space. If you're going to straight build it, I would say preferably seeing him in G Cruiser form is a lot better than seeing him in mobile suit form. Just because of the fact the stand, having him on the stand, it leaves there's just, nothing really posable to have with it. It's more like having the arm gun with him carrying the gun is one thing. It was a pain in the ass to do as it was. I would prefer not to continue down that path. I would probably do it in the other sense where it's just held down in front of him like he's picking it up, or he's like holding it while getting ready to go out on a sortie. But yeah, it's not really too worth it for that matter to do anything except put him in G Cruise form. Let him be like a Robotech, Veritech fighter. Put him in the jet form. While Gear Walker and Battleoid forms are really cool, keep him in the fighter jet form. Keep him in fighter form. It's the best. But summarize up to keep it as short as I can. I'm already going on 12 minutes here. I would definitely say, yeah, build it. If you feel like you can handle something of this size. It really is a good kit to build. It does have its faults, but Bandai has shown us over time and time again that they do make faults, and it's really up to the end user to try to justify that by making it work. And I've seen it happen, and I've seen guys make this work, but for this guy, he's going to have a lot of different changes. I'll be making another video on what we're going to be doing different with him to change all this mess up and hopefully make it better. I'm looking forward to doing it, and I hope you guys will join me on this to see how this all comes together and wraps up in a miraculous way. Miraculous? Is that a word? I don't know. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I have to wait until everyone's asleep to make these videos. But I appreciate you guys coming through. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to catch up to see what we're going to be doing with this guy, because he's going to be in the books for pretty much about February to March, I would say. But we'll definitely be posting some videos so that way you'll be able to see the process and how we're going along with it. But anyways, I'm Mobile Suit Tech Mario, and I appreciate y'all coming through. You take it easy.